Attention, attention, everybody! You are watching Rock Titan Live. I am Scotty J, and woo! Do we have a guest with us today? Man, I have been waiting a long time for this gentleman. Yes, it's been a long time coming indeed. We've been covering this band that this man is the frontman of for years on Rock Titan. You guys all know this. And I will never forget the first time I ever heard this band. They are multi-platinum at this point, but moons ago, when Scotty J still had hair, I heard this song over the radio, Fly from the Inside, and I almost drove off the road because I had electricity going up my spine. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was one of the most badass tunes I'd ever heard in my life. And now we get to talk to the guy. Ladies and gentlemen, from Shinedown, Mr. Brent Smith.
What's happening, homie?
Oh,
I'm great, man.
Dude, yes. Well, you're looking good. You're looking very good, very healthy.
Thank you.
Life's treating you well. So attention, attention. That's all the rave right now. Now, of course, the album came out back in 2018. And now you've got a film. You're an actor. You're not just a singer. You're an actor. You're producer and all of these things. How's all of the attention been?
It's been great. It's an interesting journey through all of this because when we started the writing process for what became Attention, we never set out to necessarily make a concept record. And ultimately what happened was once we wrote the song Get Up, we started to kind of figure out the direction that we were going in, and maybe not a traditional concept record, but it was a story album, because the album is ultimately about humanity, but it's not about just one particular person. And so with the record is about, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, or whether you're younger, whether you're older, the color of your skin, that's irrelevant, your religion, that's your business, that's up to you. That's what makes you an individual. And the dynamic of it also was, it was an album about don't be afraid to fail in life. You need the failure in order to know what to do next time, but you're not going to be remembered for your failures. Your legacy is going to be built around the fact that you refuse to give up. So when we were putting out what the first single was going to be in the story, because Devil opens the album, we started to go, okay, it's got to be a specific director that can do this. So enter Bill Yukich. And so when we worked with Bill, one of the interesting things about him was he was the editor for Beyonce's Lemonade. He actually won an Emmy for it. And so when we were talking to him about the possibility of him doing all of the album, meaning the visual aspects, he was immediately into it. So we did Devil, then we did the Human Radio video. Then he did Get Up. And then by the time we got to Monsters, because we were releasing these singles in certain order, but the audience was starting to see the videos and like, hey, this person is also in this video and this person's in this video. What are they doing? So we kind of Pulp Fictioned the audience a little bit, but that touring cycle for Attention was extremely heavy. So we had to carve out 2 weeks in order to film the 9 songs that were remaining, and then to make it all make sense. I have to give a ton of credit to the cast and to Bill on that, because his crew, these men and women, there's a different level when you're talking about this kind of Hollywood. These are people that, I mean, you're talking about A-list beyond A-list. And because Bill had so many connections, we were able to get the best on this project. I think the film speaks for itself, but it was always, the goal was to release the film and the visual of the entire record. Because when we wrote the album, we said, we have to show this all in its entirety. I don't care how long it takes to do it, but eventually we'll show it all. So it's interesting, 3 years after the record was released, then we presented it to the public, but everybody seemed to be digging it.
Okay. No, that's interesting. And you just touched on so many different topics that I want to cover with you in a very short period of time here. But that's cool. So the idea, like when you put out the album Attention, the idea of having the cinematography behind it, that was already a thought. This wasn't like something that happened like months later after the release or anything like that. You were already, the concept was already in mind. This was something you already wanted to do visually.
That was the goal. But
Okay.
The problem was, actually it wasn't the problem really. The cool thing was, yes, that was the intent. but we were like, who are we going to get to do this? And we were so fortunate that when the treatments went out for the first single, Devil, we got a lot of directors that wrote for it and sent us treatments. The thing that separated Bill Yukich from everybody else was Bill's treatment was really detailed and also frame by frame. Like he storyboarded it out. And none of the other directors did that. And then is like, well, what about this? And what about this? When are we going to shoot this? When are we going to shoot this? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. And then you see the finished product and you're like, well, we didn't get to it. And it doesn't look anything like the treatment. His was literally what he wrote out for Devil was exactly frame by frame how he presented it. So, and it was a cool treatment. And the other dynamic of that, finding Bill is what I'm getting at here. We were super, super lucky that we found Bill as early on as we did. But there again, man, that's why the universe is real. It'll push and pull you in the direction of the people that you need to gravitate towards.
Right on. Right on, man. Well, I mean, you talked about some of the messages in Attention, some of the things you were thinking about. Like you mentioned the term legacy and not being afraid to fail and pressing on. And I think that's so wild because, again, I want to go back to the very beginning of Shinedown. Now, we're not going to talk about the whole discography, obviously, of your band and all the success you've had over the years. But I got to give a shout out to my man, Kevin Townsend. He's an Air Force veteran and a dear friend of mine. And he's a huge fan of yours. And he's like, oh, man, if you talk to Brent, tell him that Simple Man is like one of my favorite songs, like one of the best, remakes, renditions, from Leonard Skinner that I've ever heard. And,
I appreciate that.
Oh man. So we're going back to, that first album. And like I had talked about Fly from the Inside, when at that point in time, when you're just starting out, obviously you don't necessarily know what the future holds. And I had my own dreams of grandeur one day, but everyone always said, Scott, if that doesn't work out, you got to have that safety net, you got to have a backup plan. Was it always your aspiration, Brent, to be a professional musician? And did you have any thoughts of doing anything else if you weren't able to make a living as a musician? Or were you just absolutely hell-bent like, dude, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And that's it.
100%.
Yeah.
To the question, I don't believe in a plan B.
Okay.
I never have.
All right.
Because here's the thing, whatever your A plan is, even if you don't figure it out until you're like 70 years old, whatever that A plan is, you have a responsibility to yourself to go after it. Whether or not you get there is in a lot of ways, it's up to you. But for me personally, I feel really lucky that from the moment I entered the earth, I always knew what I wanted to be. I can't remember a time ever in my life. And at the earliest age of like 4 or 5 years old, like I didn't know what singing was, but what was coming out of the speaker, not just the instrumentation, like the voice, the vocal, what I remember very vividly, almost at 4 or 5 years old, like an out of body kind of experience. Like I want to do that. And I just never looked back. And, but for me, I think that perseverance is sometimes people, depending on their upbringing or their situation, everybody is an individual. We all have a journey, but we're also always a work in progress. So I often tell people, man, I'm so lucky to do what I love because I write songs because ultimately it's cheaper than therapy.
Right on, man.
And for whatever reason, as like the main lyricist in the band, and Barry and Zach and Eric, they give me such freedom with that to be the voice of the band. I feel very lucky that I'm allowed to be creative and I'm allowed to go through these emotions. And for whatever reason, man, I've just always been able to put it down on paper and put it into a song. But I'm also a student. So I've always just been enamored by all different styles of music. I mean, a lot of times people will say they can hear a lot of influences in me and what have you. And then they'll ask, what are your influences? And when I tell them, like a lot of my rooted influences, my dad changed my life when I was 14. It was so funny. I remember walking into my bedroom, I think I had the exploited cranked. And he's like, Brent, I have no idea what these people are so mad about. But like, because they're just screaming and yelling and everything. And I'm like, yeah, dad, whatever. He was like, but I want to give you this just to broaden your palate. And I'm like, all right, whatever, dad. And I had this cassette and I threw it in the corner. I didn't even care. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like cleaning my room and I find this tape that he had given me. I was like, all right, I'll put it in, see what it is. And it was Otis Redding.
Wow.
And Otis Redding was the catalyst for me. Otis Redding got me to Nina Simone, which got me to Ella Fitzgerald, which got me to Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday got me to Sam Cooke, Al Green, Marvin Gaye. And it opened up this giant, it opened up this world that I didn't know existed. And that moment was when I started to really want to know all styles of music. So I'm very fortunate that I'm always learning, man. The great thing about being a musician and a songwriter is, there's no handbook. You just get in there and start creating.
Man, I tell you what, you threw out a couple of names right there, man. Sam Cooke, love him. Oh my God. Otis Redding. Dude, you have got the Midas touch, but I think they need to come up with something new, because the Midas touch would, pertain to everything you touch turning to gold. But with all the platinum albums that Shinedown's put out, I think we need to come up with something else for you guys, Mr. Brent Smith. But so, that being said, as far as what the future holds, I know that you guys are now 6 studio albums deep, of course, with Attention being your most recent back in 2018. And now we got your album out there that we're supporting. And you guys are going to be going on tour with Pop Evil. Oh my God, touring again. How amazing is that? Touring again in front of the public.
Yeah, we just finished 5 weeks. And then before that, we had 8 shows before the 5 weeks. So, it's a lot different out there right now. There's a ton of obstacles, but we were able to get through it. The reality was, the first 8 shows back as the band, ultimately this year, Barry had been fully vaccinated since April. And in the middle of those first rehearsals, he ended up testing positive. We had to test everybody. His tech tested positive, Ricky. And so they had to quarantine until Barry was negative. Our good friend Dustin came in from 6 a.m. and filled in for the first 3 shows. And then when Barry came back, Dustin actually, God bless him, man, he texted for Barry. And then we had a 11-day break. And then we came back out for a full 5 weeks. So then we had to bring in our friend Josh Sturm, who has bailed us out a few times. And he came in and we didn't have to cancel any shows, which was great.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing being out there in times of COVID right now, but we're super diligent. We're very aware of what's going on. We're very educated. We understand the principles. And yeah, I can tell everybody right now, because people have been asking about it. So Shinedown 7 is completed.
Okay.
And we're finishing up a couple of things as far as the mastering is concerned with our boy Ted Jensen, who's the mastering engineer in Nashville. So we got a couple of little tweaks here and there, but you're going to get a new Shinedown record early 2022.
Awesome.
And man, there's a lot going on.
All right. Now, you got anything going on with just Zach? Because I know you and Zach have your own thing going on as well. Anything there?
Yeah, so the Smith & Myers, we're going to finish out the year. We start on I think it's the 30th of November in Memphis, Tennessee. Right. And then that runs through the 20th of December. So that's going to be the last run for a while with Smith & Myers, obviously, because it's time to start the machine. But it's, you know what, man, the Smith & Myers thing, I have to say, it's an interesting way that we're able to, because people think in a lot of ways, they were like, this is just going to sound like Shinedown.
Acoustic, right?
It's just going to be like acoustic.
Right.
Not really.
Right.
It's its own thing. And the other thing that's really cool about it is we had the blessing from Barry and from Eric to do this. And at the end of the day, man, it all works together. But I think that people need to understand too, that the priority is always going to be Shinedown. I mean, we've said this many times because it holds true. We're very appreciative of everybody that supports the Smith and Myers, because if you're supporting Smith and Myers, you're ultimately supporting Shinedown.
Absolutely.
And but the thing is that we have one boss in Shinedown. It just happens to be everybody in the audience. So at the end of the day, man, they make the rules.
Right on, right on. Well, I know you need to get going here, but one last thing, dude. You gonna grow your hair back out? You gonna grow your hair out?
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Any new?
I haven't done anything to it. I cut it kind of short before the last run, and it's so interesting that you would bring that up. Somebody said that to me the other day. They were like, "Let it grow again." But I mean, I'll be straight up with you, man. For me to grow it out, it still takes like a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I have to deal with like the most weird hairstyles before it,
Yeah, that in between
wrong.
is brutal. I don't have to worry about that anymore, Brent. Guys like me, I'm good. I don't have to worry about that. But any new ink, any new tattoos, man? I know that's addictive.
I have not had a new tattoo in years,
Oh, you're
but
due, man.
I think there's only 2 left I'm gonna do. I
Right.
don't have the birds from Sound of Madness, and the guys have the birds. I'm the only one that don't have the birds. So my goal is I will eventually get the birds behind this ear right here,
Right
and
on.
I don't have the exclamation point from Attention yet, and they do. So I got to put the exclamation point behind this ear. So I will eventually get to that, but that's probably it.
All right, all right. Well, you never know, man. There's a lot of exposed flesh in that body of yours still, man. But
I
dude,
tell people the honest to God truth, man. I'm like that. Pardon my French. I won't cuss, but that it hurts.
yeah.
I'm not even going to try to be like this tough guy. It hurts.
Yeah.
It really hurts.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but the pain is so good. And everybody, again, we are here with Brent Smith from Shinedown, and make sure you go check out Attention, the film. And it's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. And man, there was some stuff that we didn't even get to touch on, man, because I know you guys shut down 4 square blocks of LA, man, filming that thing.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. Go check that out. And we got Shinedown 7 on the way in early 2022. How awesome is that, everybody? And oh man, we'll have the links. Of course, we're gonna have the links to everything here. But Brent, thank you so much again for joining me on Rock Titan Live, man.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, man. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing you.
Absolutely.
And thanks again for all the support.
Absolutely. Always. You always have that, my friend. Everybody, I am Scotty J. You're watching Rock Titan Live here with Brent Smith of Shinedown. We're out.
Later.